Jessica, and today I want to talk to you all about chickens. Chickens were the thing that I probably set my heart on before anything else when it came to homesteading. I had nice ideas about gardens and bees and raising up our own turkeys for Thanksgiving, but the one thing that I thought about more than anything was being able to go out into the yard and bring in a basket full of fresh eggs. In fact, I was so excited about it that when we were able to finally move into our acreage after years of living in the city and researching homesteads and researching chickens, I went against everything that I'd learned and I bought 30 Rhode Island red chicks and brought them home in a cardboard box when we had no fence, no coop, no brooder lights, anything. We were completely ill-equipped and it was a total fiasco. So I definitely suggest you don't do it that way. We're putting together this series of videos, starting with the very beginner basics for those of you who think that you'd like to also get fresh eggs from your yard but you have no idea where to start. And I'm going to progress on to talking about later in the series incubating, hatching your own birds with a broody hen, treating sick birds, and also raising up chickens for meat. I'm really looking forward to sharing this information because it's just something that I'm super excited about. I was dubbed the crazy chicken lady before I had actually even ever held a chicken. So this is something that's just close to my heart. It's one of my most favorite parts about homesteading, and I feel incredibly blessed every time I get to spend time around my birds and share them with other people. So here's a look into our chicken operation. The first thing that you have to think about when getting chickens is how you're going to keep them safe at night. Chickens will not protect themselves when they're sleeping. They just roost and they are prey to any animal, raccoon, possum, anything that wants to come in and kill them, it can. They're literally just sitting birds and they do nothing to protect themselves. So they have to be in a secure house that's locked up. During the day, they can free range wherever. They don't need a fence. They don't even really need a pen unless you want to keep them out of a certain area. But the coop is a must-have. You can start anywhere from a tractor coop like this. This holds about 5 or 6 birds. You need at least 2 square feet a bird inside your coop, and you need at least 8 inches of roosting space. So this will hold about 5 or 6 birds, and you can build this for about $150, or you can find ones already built on Craigslist for around $300. We made this coop by surrounding a 10 by 10 dog kennel with pellets. So it's about 100 square feet and can house around 50 free-ranging birds. This is a great option if you need space for a lot of animals for a low price. This only costs about $300 or $400 to make, and it could cost less if you could find the materials used for free. Here's another option for a dog kennel turned chicken coop. We took a 10 by 10 dog kennel, we covered it in pallets. You want to do that to keep predators from being able to reach through. It has a canvas top from when we had our dogs in it, and we also lined the top with fencing so that it's completely predator proof. It cost about $300 or $400 to do this one as well. And this one will hold about 40 or 50 birds. We use these for breeding pens, but they'd be a great option for someone who lived in the city and only wanted to have about 12 to 15 birds. They have a completely enclosed run, and we built both sides of this pen for around $1,000. So you could do one side with something like this for a small flock for only about $500. This is our largest and our nicest chicken coop. We bought a Dirksen building that was already ready, and it was delivered out here for about $2,800 total. We spent a few extra $100 modifying the building to be a chicken coop and enclosing the lean-to to be a run. It's 10 by 12, so 120 square feet, and on the maximum it holds about 60 birds. We keep all of our birds' food in metal trash cans right outside their coops because it takes a lot of the legwork out of doing morning chores. The main source of nutrition for adult chickens is layer pellets. This has all the nutrition that they need to be able to lay sufficiently. It is the exact same stuff as layer crumble, it's just in pellet form so they waste less. However, if you have a mixed flock of younger birds and older birds, you're going to have to do crumble so that nobody chokes on anything. Also, we have scratch that we give our birds about a scoop of every day for our big flock. This is primarily corn and other grains. It really doesn't have the nutritional value that they need in order to lay, but it's a good treat. However, they will eat as much of it as you will make available, and it will make them unhealthy. So you have to ration scratch. Also, chickens can eat pretty much most everything that comes off of your kitchen table. We bring all of our kitchen scraps out to the yard and give it to them, except for things like onions, citrus, avocado skins. There are just a handful of things that they can't eat, but most everything they can. They can actually even eat chicken and eggs, which I know is weird, but they kind of love it. So we feed everything that comes out of our kitchen to our birds, but their main diet is always going to be layer pellets. You need some kind of bedding inside your coop. A lot of people like to use hay or straw, but the problem with that is that it gets really smelly really fast. So you're going to be changing it out about every week or two, or you're going to have a major smell issue. We like to use sand inside of all of our coops. It seems kind of weird, but there's virtually no smell and it cuts down on the work big time. It's definitely a lot more work up front because you have to have at least 8 to 10 inches, and so getting it all in can be a bit of a hassle. However, you don't have to change it out for a year. All you have to do is sift it and break it up if it starts to get dirty. We use a feeder that we've hung from a chain inside of our coop because it discourages the chickens from roosting on top and pooping inside the feeder. Also, you only need about 1 nest box for every 5 birds. Everybody thinks that they need more than that, but really the chickens are going to fight over their favorite nest boxes anyway. We have 10 in this flock of 60 birds, but only about 40 are laying, and it is plenty of space for them. Also, you want to get the biggest water that your space will accommodate. Whenever I first got started, I had a much smaller water and it made for a lot more work. So the biggest water, the better. And if you've got a place for them to free range, what we do is we put a kiddie pool out in the yard and fill it with water because you never want your birds to run out of fresh water. One of the first things you're going to have to choose whenever you are picking out your chickens is the choice between a hen that's already laying or close to laying or a brand new chick. Hens cost more. They're going to cost you about $15 to $20 each, but you get eggs right away. However, you might take the risk of getting a bird that's sick or being told that you're buying a bird that's a year old and actually getting one that's about 3 years old and done laying, and then having to figure out what to do with that. With chicks, they're really cheap. They're only $2 to $3 each, but you have to keep them safe. They'll need a source of heat, they'll need bedding and a brooder that's going to have to be cleaned out regularly, and they'll have to live in your garage or shop for 5 weeks until they have enough feathers to go outside. And then on top of that, it'll be about 18 to 26 weeks total before you ever see any eggs out of them. Even with all that said, we generally like to choose chicks because we know what we're getting. You're going to put a lot of work in, but there's no surprises. You know exactly what you've got, and you've got control over their health. I'll be going more into detail about how to brood chicks and our system for that later on in this Homesteader's Guide to Chicken Keeping series. One of the questions that I get asked the most when people are getting into chickens is, do I need a rooster? And the answer is no, you don't have to have one in order to get eggs. Hens lay eggs whether there's a rooster around or not. However, they are really good to have if you want protection for your flock. They do great for that, and obviously you're going to need one if you ever want any of your eggs to hatch. A lot of people are concerned that their roosters are going to be really mean, but that's not always the case. We've actually never had a mean rooster on our farm. As long as you handle them some and you don't allow your kids to pick on them or chase them, they generally stay pretty docile. Another question I get is, how many birds do I need and what kind? I'm going to go much further in depth about breeds in my next video, but what you really need as a beginning homesteader is a dual-purpose bird that's heavy enough to put in the freezer when it's done laying, but that will lay enough eggs during its life to make it worth your time. My suggestion for the best breeds for a starting homesteader is a Rhode Island Red, an Australorp, Barred Rocks, and Orpingtons. Those are hands down my favorite, and they lay really well. They're pretty docile birds. Definitely a good place to start. As far as how many, it really depends on your situation. One of those types of breeds is going to lay about 5 eggs a week on average throughout the year. So that means for a family of 5, a flock of 12 would be sufficient for you to have a few dozen a week for yourself and maybe even some extra to give away. We in our house have a whole lot of chickens, and we also eat 4 dozen eggs a week, but we give a lot of eggs away. So just starting with that math, about 5 eggs a week per bird that's a good laying bird. Thank you so much for watching the first installment of our Homesteader's Guide to Chicken Keeping. We'll be adding videos over the coming weeks, from beginner information all the way to advanced, everything that you need to know about keeping chickens. We really appreciate your subscriptions and any comments or likes, and please share our page because we just want to help homesteaders learn things that we've learned the hard way. Thanks so much. Have a good day. some sort of bedding inside your coop. And a lot of people like to use horror stray. You need to share our page for anybody else that you know out there that doesn't know how to hold a chicken. This installment of our video series, A Homesteader's Guide to Can't Speak. Okay. Peace. Give me peace, God. Okay. Okay. Since I first started even thinking about a homestead. Rosie just ruined my shot.